Hey, what's up guys? It's John with Russell Marine Products, and today we're going to address a frequently asked question. Should you go with Mega 360 or Forward Facing Sonar? Let's get right to it. All right, so as you can see, we're out here looking around some docks. We've got our Mega 360 up on the screen, so you guys can kind of see why this view is appealing for fishing around docks or shallow cover in general. So this is actually going to show us where all the dock pilings are, where all the cables are. We're going to be able to see any type of structure or cover that we might want to target. We're going to be able to see fish as well. So the 360, very appealing, especially in that shallow water scenario. There are some restrictions once you get out deeper, but you can actually adjust the frequency from the megahertz frequency down to 455, which will help out in those deeper scenarios. But this is mainly a shallow water tool. So what you're going to be seeing on this Mega 360, you're going to be seeing an overhead, a bird's eye view. This is going to be very similar to that perspective, landscape, or scout mode from your forward-facing transducers. It is going to give you more definition. You're going to be able to see, you're going to be able to differentiate one rock from another. You're going to be able to see a laydown, and again, you're going to be able to see fish, but you're not going to know where those targets are at in the water column. So it is very good. It is very detailed, and it is going to help you locate key areas, structure, and even fish. But it's going to be missing some information as far as where that fish or those objects are in the water column. And that's where your forward-facing transducer comes into play. So we're going to look at Mega 360. We're going to show you what to expect from this technology. You're gonna be able to see where it can benefit you, but then we're also going to look at forward-facing sonar, show you those same types of areas, what information to expect out of it, and then to sum it up, we're going to look at using those two tools side by side. Okay, so here we are looking up under these docks. This is a great tool for shooting up around docks. You're going to be able to see the cables coming across here. You're going to be able to see the pilings. You're going to be able to differentiate one stall from the next. You can see the vertical lines there. And then we also do see what appear to be fish. Now, we don't really know if those fish are on the bottom or those fish actually up in the water column somewhere. So we can make an assumption and we can present a lure to these fish, but in order to really know where they're at, we're going to want our forward-facing transducer in order to give us that information. So let's go ahead, take a look at that, and see how that differs from what we're seeing here. Okay, so now we switched over to our forward-facing transducer. Now we're seeing some of the things that we were seeing on our Mega 360, but now we're seeing them in a completely different perspective. So we're going to be able to tell where these fish were at that we were seeing in the water column. We'll be able to look around, and there was like a brush pile over here that we were seeing on the 360. Now what you're seeing right here is actually the part of the walkway that's actually down submerged into the water. So you're able to see that there. It looks like there could be some bait fish or something just underneath it, so we can see that. And some of this stuff didn't make a whole lot of sense when we were looking at the Mega 360, but now we start to really understand what we were seeing. We saw some fish, and it looks like there could be some fish on the bottom. That could be a rock or something, but it does look like there's some fish activity around it. This right here, we've got a vertical line. See there? You can see that's a dock cable. Could be a fish right around there as well, but as you can see, that's a vertical line. We've got one out around 40 feet as well back there, and some fish holding to that as well. So the 360 is nice for like flipping and pitching and stuff like that around docks. You know, if you're presenting a bottom lure to it, you may be missing out on some of these fish. You know, you just assume that they're down on the bottom, but a lot of the times they're holding to all of the cover and structure that these docks are gonna provide. So if you've got both pieces of technology, they work really well together. You can locate where exactly that object is. If you guys haven't seen, we've done a forward-facing video kind of showing you the differences between perspective and forward on forward-facing technology, and that's going to be very similar to the Mega 360. So if you want to locate where that piece of cover is, use your Mega 360 to do that, and then you can dial that in with your forward-facing transducer. There is some room for error on that forward-facing. You've got a 20-degree wide beam, but with that Mega 360, you can line yourself up, and if it's at 12 o'clock, you know it's directly out in front of the boat. You know, if it's at 10 o'clock, you have a pretty good idea of where to point that forward-facing transducer and really dial in on that object. Now, if you're trying to make a decision whether you go with one transducer or the other, the forward-facing transducer can do a lot of what the Mega 360 can. It's not going to be as detailed, but it is going to offer other benefits like giving you real-time information. So it's going to give you that overhead bird's eye view. You're going to be able to locate that structure. You're going to be able to dial in where you need to make that cast. But again, you're not going to know where in the water column to present your lures. So those are some things that you guys need to factor in when you're thinking about adding either of these pieces of technology to your boat. Ideally, you'll have both of them. Ideally, you can use them side by side, but if you're going with one or the other, you might factor in that the forward-facing transducer can offer you kind of both pieces of the puzzle. Now, you're going to have to rotate that transducer to forward, and then when you want to go into this perspective mode, you're going to have to flip it over. So you can't run both modes at once, right? So that's something to consider for the non-Humminbird guys that don't want to put a Mega 360 on their boat to have to put a Humminbird graph. If you've already got a couple Lowrances or a couple Garmins up front, you could do a lot of what we're doing here with 2 live scopes or 2 active targets. The benefit to the Mega 360 over a forward-facing transducer in that perspective mode is that the Mega 360 is in a fixed position. So if you're in a spot lock scenario, your transducer is not affected by that. It's actually not moving with the trolling motor. So that way, you know, if you're in spot lock, like if you have your forward-facing transducer attached to the shaft of your trolling motor and you're in spot lock, that transducer is just pointing wherever your trolling motor is pointing in order to keep you in that position. So there are definitely pros to the Mega 360. 1, them being in a fixed position, and 2, just providing you the detail and the clarity that they do. If you're not familiar with the 360, kind of showed you some shots here, but it's basically a side imaging transducer that's going to spin around in a circle, right? So it's going to provide you a very detailed picture, much like your side imaging transducer does. All right, so here we are at our next spot to try to show you what the Mega 360 is going to offer in a couple different scenarios. So right here, we've got some rock piles going on. We've got this windbreak, which you're actually going to see kind of the hard lines in this shot as well. We're kind of blowing off of this spot here, but that's actually going to give us some more information. So you can actually see the braces and stuff that are used to hold that windbreak together there, kind of those zigzag lines, and then you see that real hard spot right there as well. You can see these rock piles out kind of behind the boat, and you can tell that it's getting a little bit more, a little deeper, right? So the shallower water is showing up in that real bright return, and your deeper water is gonna not be near as bright. So this has given us a lot of information as far as depth is concerned, you know, as much as this overhead view can give us, so we can tell where the shallower spots are versus the deeper spots. But again, if we're seeing fish on here, which I do see a couple, and a lot of the times the way you can identify a fish is by the shadow. So if it offers a shadow, there's a good chance that it's actually up in the water column. It could just be the way the beam's hitting it as well. Could see a shadow on something that's standing upright. But that's something to look for. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and make this pass with the Mega Live, show you some of the same cover and structure that we just saw with the 360, and hopefully we'll see a few fish along the way as well. So you can see where it gets shallow right here, and then it drops off right around this wave break. You can see some of those uprights for that wave break, and you'll probably see some fish holding to some of that cover as well. We'll make this pass all the way down, and I bet you we'll see some fish. But if you look back, the nice thing about the forward-facing transducer is whether you have it on a pole or on your trolling motor shaft, you can steer it around. The Mega 360, you gotta wait for it to make its pass. So, you know, there's pros and cons both ways. So right here out in front of us, about 10 feet in front of the boat, you're seeing some of the concrete anchors that are holding this wave break into place. And then out at about 20 feet, you do see some fish activity just off the bottom there. We'll keep chucking along down the wave break here until we run into some fish. There's a brush pile over here that we'll take a look at as well. We'll show you what that looks like on both the Mega Live and the Mega 360. All right, so what we can see out here in front of the boat, we've got a brush pile. And as you can see, the individual limbs sticking up off the bottom of the lake there. And then you can see some more stuff on the bottom. That looks like that's probably a concrete anchor that goes with this windbreak here. And then we've got some uprights that you're seeing. Those are from this wave break as well. Now, once we get just past this wave break, we'll have a brush pile to take a look at here. Okay, so we're coming around the end here. We're looking at some of these cables holding this wave break up. You can see the submerged part of that wave break up on the top of the water column there. And we'll come around here. We'll look around with our Mega Live, then we'll switch over to our Mega 360 and show you what that looks like. All right, so we're actually out here. We've got this brush pile. There's a bunch of lay down cover down here. You're seeing this on the Mega 360. You can see a lot of the branches. You can see how it appears to be more of a hot return right there in the center of it. And then it kind of dies off on each side. And part of why that is because that brush pile is built up real tall in the center. And then as it fades out, right, it gets further away from the transducer, right? So that actually tells you some information there. But again, doesn't show you any depth. Now we are moving pretty slowly here. We're just kind of getting pushed by the wind, but we're passing over this brush pile now. So you can see it's actually just behind us there, and it's pretty dang long. This goes on for 30 or 40 feet here. And we've got some anchors out here as well. So as you can see, pretty much all around the boat, we've got some concrete anchors, some over here on the right side of the boat and some over here to the left. So pretty much passed by that main brush pile there, but as you can see over here on the top right corner, we've got another laydown that actually runs the opposite way. So you're really good at locating this type of stuff, but again, you're going to want a little bit more information in order to figure out where your lure needs to be in order to put it right in front of that fish's face. So we'll go ahead and we'll check this out from our forward-facing view as well. Okay, so out here in front of us, you can see this brush pile, and you can see how it's kind of right on the edge of that drop-off there, right? So what we're looking at is this transducer is lined up with our trolling motor, and wherever we're pointing that trolling motor is where this beam is at. So if we see that this brush pile's out 40 feet directly in front of this transducer, then we're 40 feet out this way here. Now, there is a room for error that we've talked about in other videos. 20-degree wide beam could be 5 to 10, 15 feet, depending on how far out you're shooting. So that's where that Mega 360 comes into play for locating that structure. But once you've located it, you really can't beat the forward-facing transducer because it shows you exactly where everything is at. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you put them down in the comment section below, give us a call, or shoot us an email. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.
Are you tired of your old marine electronics? At R&P, we make trade-in easy. 3 steps. Step 1, shoot us an email, get a quote. Step 2, send us your old unit and get credit. Step 3, get your brand new unit and get it installed on your boat today.